Let's go over how to make a painted background to put behind your transparency paper. We're going to be painting with some tempera paints. We have some fluorescent or neon colors, and then we also have some regular colors. For this example, I used all warm colors, both the fluorescent and the regular colors, and I mixed them together. I also added some texture with a fork, and I'll show you how to do that. When you're choosing what colors, think about colors that blend well together, like all warm colors or all cool colors or the rainbow. When you look at a color wheel, you want to think about the colors that sit next to each other and they will blend the best together. But you can really pick any colors that you like because this is your art. So as I'm pouring the paint on my plate, I'm just doing about the size of a quarter. You can always get more paint, but you can't take the paint away. So only use a little bit and you can get more if you need to. Notice that I spaced mine out carefully and they are somewhat in order. So I have the greens next to each other and the blues. That way, if they do mix together, it's not that big of a deal. Before you paint, you need a couple other things. You'll need your piece of paper. First, write your name on the back so that we know that it's your art, and then flip it over. You're going to be painting on the blank side. You'll need a messy mat to protect your table. You can also paint all the way to the edges and get it on the messy mat. You can also use your messy mat to dry off your brush a little or make sure that it is clean. You'll need a water cup and a paintbrush. And then if you'd like to add texture, you can use a plastic fork. You may also want a paper towel to wipe your brush off because we don't want our brush to be too wet. We're using tempera paint and it already has a liquid in it, so you don't need to really add a lot of water, not like a watercolor. But you do need to rinse off your brush when you get a new color. So I'm gonna try to blend some of the blues, greens, and purples together here. And I'm just painting in one direction. I'm using a vertical brush stroke going up and down, but you could do side to side, diagonal, whatever you like. That's just what I feel like is easiest, choosing one direction for your paintbrush to go. Now that my entire paper is filled with color, I can add a little bit more paint on top if I want to add texture with my fork. Because some of this paint is already starting to dry, we're going to need to add a little bit more paint to the paper so that the fork has some paint to move around. And you can just kind of blend in the paint wherever you feel like it needs a little more color. I'm not trying to go back and forth too much because I want some wet paint on the paper. Then you can take the fork and you can go in any kind of shape or line. You could do zigzag, you could do a spiral. Notice that here this paint is dry, so I'm going to add a little bit more. So I painted over the original texture with my fork because I realized I didn't really like it. So if that's something that happens to you, you can just add a little bit more paint on top. The key with this is that you want to work quickly before the paint on your paper dries so that you can add texture with the fork. If the paint is dry, like in this corner, you may need to add a little bit more paint to your paper and then try the texture again. Try using one direction or one motion with your fork and repeating it throughout your paper. When you're done with your painting, take your messy mat and your painting and slide it on an empty spot on the drying rack near where you sit. With your paints, you can fold up your plate and put it in a trash can that has a plastic bag. Then you can take your water cup that has your painting tools in it to the sink, pour out your water, and put your dirty painting tools in the dirty brush bucket. I hope you have fun painting your textured background for your transparent portrait.